Hey, Catherine, if
What?
I were to sit here, would I be in your shot?
You would. I can see if I can go.
But we're back in so we have birthdays together all the time. My mom and Kristen are really good friends.
What did you? Sisters?
I'm gonna put it right here. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's good. Does that work?
I'm gonna step off really quick.
Good evening, everyone. After the mutual 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order for the county council. Thanks for being here. I would ask if you would bow your heads. I'd like to say a prayer, if that's all right. God, thank you for being here with us tonight. We come in the season of Easter, humbled by the giving of yourself to the world, for the world, out of love. You've shown us a better way to live, a way that says serving others is more meaningful than being served. That loving neighbors, all of them, is the way to know what love really is. That being grateful makes us easier to be around. And giving ourselves leads to healthier communities. Tonight we ask for wisdom to make decisions that help our county to be better, to be safer, healthier, kinder. We ask for blessing on all our staff and their families, staff who work hard on behalf of the county residents. We pray for comfort and restoration for those impacted by recent storms. Storms remind us how little control we actually have. Yet rather than despair in our powerlessness, we want to trust in your grace to bring goodness in every circumstance. If Easter teaches us any lesson, it's that even when hope seems most lost, there's still reason to trust you for good. It's a time of struggle and uncertainty in our county and our country. We ask that you would help each of us be about doing the next needed thing to bring hope, compassion, and healing in our communities. In your name, amen. If you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have a roll call, please.
Councilor Steele?
Here.
Councilor Holt?
Here.
Councilor Lycan? Here. Councilor Grabowski? Here. Councilor Keller? Here. Vice President Moore? Present. President Green?
Here. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the March meeting. You've had a chance to review them. Anybody have any comments or questions? Now I take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Councilor Steele, second. Councilor Grabowski. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of the agenda. In discussing the agenda or looking over the agenda, realize that the under transfers for the surveyor, that particular transfer will only be meaningful if later in the meeting under the public hearing items where the surveyor is made a request. That transfer really needs to occur after that discussion on the public hearing item. So I'm asking for just a move of the transfer for the surveyor after the public hearing items. If that's okay, I would take a motion for the
Second.
amended agenda. Motion by Councilor Steele, second by Councilor Likens. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. Just a couple of comments. Last month I introduced a budget strategy that we're employing this year to try to be more effective, more transparent, more consistent for all of our departments, for the public, for all of us. We introduced that process this month. We are assigning liaison positions for each of the council members. Each council member is going to have 4 departments that they're going to be assigned to department heads to develop a relationship in such a fashion to be more aware and detailed way of the budget and budget issues. And so over the next month, each of us will be communicating and contacting each of the department heads that were assigned. And just wanted the public to be aware of that process that we articulated last month is in process. I've emailed those assignments out. Glad to make those available to anybody who's interested. Wasn't going to go through all 27 of them tonight, but I did want to also just mention 2 other things. This past month, we lost a wonderful community leader in Dr. Bill Van Ness, who served the community in many ways, including as our health department's chief health officer. I just wanted to acknowledge him and appreciation for him and his service. He will be greatly missed. Also want to celebrate the Public Service Award given by the Indiana Department of Health to our own Madison County Health Department. If you didn't know this, they received a great honor in all 92 counties. They were chosen for outstanding public health service and community outreach. And were given the Public Health Service Award by the state. In addition, honor our own Jessica Baston, the county engineer, for receiving the Madison County Chamber of Commerce Public Servant of the Year Award. We're proud and pleased to have all of these folks as part of our team. We have some great people working for the county. I just wanted to be able to highlight that.
I think you forgot
Lastly,
Ron Richardson.
I gave an update on SB1, which was originally proposed here several weeks ago in the legislature. I just been trying to stay in contact with our legislators. There have been a lot of concern from local communities with regard to funding because of property tax reform that many people believe is really important. And that bill is not finished, but is nearing completion. And I received word today that there's a strong likelihood that we won't be taking any cuts in our county. I was really grateful to hear that. Obviously, that's not secure because it's not been voted on. And until the votes have happened, we don't know for sure. But it's just a word of encouragement, at least, for those of us who've been concerned about funding for services. Auditor's report. Mr. Cole.
Good evening, council. I think we'll get the TV on up there. We're really just going to go through the general fund cash flow spreadsheet again, and I've made an additional spreadsheet for you to look at. If you move to the next screen, this is what I sent you via email. I keep this updated every month and try to keep it going and project where we're going to be. At this point, if you can see that in April, you'll start to see a deficit. Now, please keep in mind that the expenditures are based on historical expenditures, and that's the reason for the next spreadsheet. The next spreadsheet shows if we take what you passed as the budget. If you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you have the 2025 budget that you passed, $44,978,824. So far this year, we've appropriated $21,524 more and had a reduction of $23.25. So your total budget is $44,998. Now, if we take that budget down to the bottom part, the top part's the receipts and the bottom part's expenditures, and we make the expenditures come out to where your budget is, it paints a little different picture for you. We would still be short a little bit in May, which is standard. You know, that's why we keep that high balance at the end of the year to try to make it through to the first tax draw. If you think about the tax draws, I know I go over this, but there's two critical points during the year. If you think taxes are due in May and November, we're going to receive settlement funds in June and December. That breakdown is usually about 53% in the spring and 47% in the fall. So you'll get a bigger sum in the spring, and that's why you don't see that negative value at the bottom line in the latter part of the year. You get that bigger chunk in the spring. But I just wanted to point out that if we do stick to budget or very close to budget, we came into the year with 11,223,000, and we'd actually exit the year with 12,495,000. So a little over $1 million to the positive if we stick to the budget. What happens historically is that towards the end of the year, we start piling on appropriations, and that's where we run into problems. So that's all I had to share with you this evening. Thank you.
Next is old business from last month, the resolution, thank you, resolution 2025-3B regarding the regional utility district. Last month that was discussed and tabled. Since that time, we've three of our members were able to receive some public input, and I appreciate Councilor Keller, Grabowski, and Norick being able to participate. In fact, asked if you have any feedback for us from that reception of public question and comment before we're going to have Jessica come and give us some background and history that brings us to the point of the resolution. Any comment or?
On the last, maybe the last week first. Well, I just wanted to say that,
Can you guys speak up?
I think, can you hear me now? No.
No,
You still can't hear me?
no, and every meeting it says microphones.
I just wanted to say that, at the meeting, I feel like the consensus was that, we at that time had not had enough information. And that was concerning to both the constituents as well as to several of us on the council. That's why we tabled it. And I want to say that since our executive session, I've been able to review different documents that we should have reviewed, which is, for instance, the preliminary engineering report, and a couple other different documents that are necessary for us to have a better scope and idea of the project itself. I know that we have a serious issue up in Alexandria and something that needs to be resolved quickly rather than not. But I also understand that it's important that we resolve it in the best way that we can for the constituents that are up there that are going to be affected by that sewer issue, as well as how the best way for the county to be able to handle that situation. So I can say that since our executive session, and I've been able to review several documentation, it doesn't give us answers to everything that was questioned, and some of those questions we won't know until later on in the process. But I feel confident that I have the information now that I needed in order to be able to make a decision tonight about that sewer district.
I would echo the same sentiments that Jody has. It was really hard to have that come before us and not have all the information. But since then, with the meetings that we've had a lot of questions answered and appreciate the work that's been done. But we also want the residents to feel comfortable with it as well. And so I think that as we go, we'll be getting a lot more answers on that.
I'm very frustrated with how this entire process has happened to date. We know the engineering department has been working on this for 3 years, And I recently found out that the county officials met with Commonwealth Engineering back in December, and they reviewed the preliminary engineering report in December. On March 4th, the commissioners unanimously passed a resolution of support for the formation of a regional utility district. And then on March 11th, the council was asked to pass a similar resolution of support. However, we were given a one-page resolution with 2.5 business days to find out information. We were not provided with the preliminary engineering report or the petition process at that time. And the council was able to table it on March 11th, and we did request that information. And so even though the preliminary engineering report did exist at that time, it was not given to us. And I went searching elsewhere for information since I wasn't getting any information from the county. And so I worked with John Widener, and we co-hosted a town hall meeting in Alexandria on March 27th. And that was not an official meeting. It was not public noticed. We just tried to get as many people together as we could. We invited a lot of different officials from the city and the county and the trustee's office. And everyone from the county that had been working on the project that was invited all had prior commitments, and none of them came to the town hall meeting. And so we are left having a community discussion with very limited information. So from the information that we could talk about during that town hall meeting, there was not a single person in the room that wanted me to vote in favor of supporting the regional utility district. We then had an executive session, which is a private meeting, on April 3rd. And at that meeting, the council was given additional information. And this new information that we have has not been shared with the public, and including the preliminary engineering report. And in fact, multiple people have put in public records requests for the preliminary engineering report, and they haven't received that yet. And to date, I've been denied a copy of it as well, although I was allowed to stay after the meeting and review it. So I did my best to read as much of it as I could, but I had to do it that night. To my knowledge, only 3 of the counselors have reviewed the preliminary engineering report, and I've not had the opportunity to review it with the constituents. I do feel more confident in the engineering design that is in the preliminary engineering report, and I think it could be a good solution for the Scotts and the Phillips neighborhoods. However, I'm not confident enough in the regional utility district as the best option, because there would be more than one option on how to address this. And so I'm not comfortable at this point saying that I unequivocally support the formation of a regional utility district until I'm able to review that preliminary engineering report with the constituents and make sure that that is a solution that is best for the people. And that's where I'm at. So I don't think it's fair to ask me to share the feedback that I got from that meeting, because we had such little information at that meeting. So I don't want you to use that in place of public comment tonight and say, oh, well, we got feedback at the town hall meeting. Well, it wasn't properly noticed. It was just a group of neighbors. So I don't want that group of people to be the only public comment that we have on this. So with that said, I would like to make a motion that we open the floor for public comment. All right, so to the people that are in the audience, I'm sorry. And at this time, if you would just stand, if you were here tonight to talk about the regional utility.
Because no one would second her. No one would second her.
Yeah.
Yes. This is what they've done to you.
Mm-hmm.
They are not for the people. Remember this at the
We
polls.
appreciate you, Bethany.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you, Bethany.
Yes, thank you, Beth Ann.
I just want to make one more comment. We can.
Exactly.
I want to hear your comment.
comment, you should want to hear ours.
And ma'am, I did hear the comments because I was at the meeting.
But not everybody
Not
did.
everyone was. I had no idea about this until 2 days ago.
Sounds like most of these people didn't.
There's still
Yeah.
some people that don't know about it.
We're all here now. We'd like to publicly
And
make our
some of us
comments.
actually paid for our own septics and paid $20,000 out of our own pocket, and now you want us to have a new system that we're gonna have to pay more for? No, that's crazy.
Okay, so that is a concern that I had, and that's something that was addressed in the preliminary engineering report, and also the
That
statute.
we can't
We
see.
can't even
Where
see
is
it. We've requested and can't
Let the
see it.
people
And
speak.
also the statute backs you
This
guys
is better than public
and not
comment.
being forced
It
to
is.
have to hook into that septic.
But we will
That's-
still have to pay taxes on
No.
that system.
No,
We will.
I believe it is 20 years, I'm going off of memory, that you have,
How do you not have
you will be
paperwork?
grandfather clause in as long as you have a viable working septic system.
And when will we be able to see
I think
this
actually.
system?
Who determines the
I'm gonna
viable
ask Jeff to
system?
come to the,
Who determines
Give
that?
us some background, if you would.
Health department.
Oh, the health department
Good
determines
evening,
that.
Council, Jessica Basson, the county engineer. There's a couple of things I'd like to start with, just to clarify kind of where we are in the process. First, and I apologize if this wasn't clear when I was talking to you about this at the previous meeting, but this is the beginning of the engagement and outreach process. This is not by any means the point where we would have all the answers, or the residents would have all the answers. The vote that is up for consideration for the council is to move forward with the process of forming the regional utility district. And the reason that that is important is because it fulfills a number of different steps. To Councilwoman Keller's comment about the meeting that was held and no one was able to attend because we had prior commitments. Those of us who are on the project team working on this regularly, we found out at 11 o'clock on Monday about the meeting. And yes, we had prior commitments, but even further, and I explained this in an outreach or an email to all of you, we had concerns about the legality and the validity of that meeting because of how it could be perceived by the state. We did not want to give the perception that we were trying to circumvent any of the outreach efforts that are very clearly defined by the state law. And that was one of the big concerns for that. Secondly, I was receiving complaints that residents were not invited to a meeting that I wasn't invited to hear me present about a project. And that was very concerning to me because that's telling me that the audience that needs to be reached was not reached. So at this point, and I'm not saying this is a good process, this is a state process. This is not a process that Madison County has developed or that we have, frankly, control over. But the process is that the council and the commissioners have to adopt a resolution supporting the formation of the regional utility district. And then that enters into the outreach phase. From there, we have a very defined regimen of outreach initiatives to make sure that the residents and those who could potentially be affected by this are notified. It involves targeted mailers to property owners within the project areas and within the potential service areas. It involves radio ads. It involves newspaper advertisements, publication on a website, and other mechanisms. And that is, again, once we move to the next step, that is all initiated. From the beginning of that process, then in roughly 30 days, or at least 30 days, to make sure that the appropriate individuals are notified, then there is a public hearing. And during that public hearing, we have very specific information that we are to share to inform the residents and those who are interested in the project of what is being proposed and why it's being proposed and what the need for it is. And then it also outlines the process to move forward. From that public hearing, then there is a 180-day period, minimum 180-day period, that the Indiana Department of Environmental Management would kick off to receive public comment, public engagement. That gives residents the time to talk to their elected officials, to review documents that will be made available through the website that we are working on setting up, to understand more about what the project would entail. And it also gives the project team more opportunity to move forward with the conceptualizing and development of the alternatives. And what I mean by that is pursuing different funding options and working with rate consultants to understand what that looks like from a financial standpoint, so that we have better information, more pertinent information for the residents to understand. At the end of that 180-day period, then IDEM will review the documentation that has been provided by the county and the documentation from the residents. They will hold another public hearing to receive any final comments and thoughts, and then they will take their time, whatever time they need, to make a recommendation. And the recommendation would either be to form the district or to not form the district, or to form the district with these modifications. So this is not a quick process. Nothing about this is a quick process. And again, this is not meant to be the final point in the process. This is meant to initiate the outreach efforts. Again, that was why there was concern about attending a last minute meeting without our subject matter experts who were being available, and without being able to properly notify those who are actually impacted by the project. So that is the process. Okay, so a vote tonight, whichever way you choose to vote, does not end this. The process will go on until we get through this initiative with IDEM. And so for the residents, I want you to understand that this is not your only opportunity. In fact, you have not had opportunities yet, and that is by nature of the IDEM procedure. Again, no one in this room has control over that process, has control over how that looks. But we're in a situation where there's certain information that needs to be shared at certain times. Whether we like it or not, those are just the parameters that we have to work through. And so I'm happy to answer what questions I can. If you would like me to talk a little bit about the history of the situation, I can do that, but I think we kind of covered a lot of that already. And I do appreciate the council members, it was more than just 3 who looked at the preliminary engineering report. I do appreciate all of you who reached out to me and who spent time asking questions and engaging on that.
So you said, regardless of how we vote tonight, the process will continue. Does the council, or does your petition to IDEM require a resolution of support from the council?
That's probably more of a legal question. My understanding is that it is, if it's not required, it's strongly encouraged for the formation of the utility district. But that would be, I mean, the fact of the matter is that this situation is under an agreed order with IDEM. That is a legal court order. So the county has to do something with that. Whether that, what that looks like in reviewing the different options, and I'm happy to talk about the different options, but I mean, you all know I could talk about this for a number of hours. It depends on what you would like me to talk about tonight. The mechanisms for the management of this effort, the resulting recommendation is a regional utility district formation for a number of reasons. One of the biggest ones is that the residents, it's important for the residents to have representation, and that is where the utility district comes into play. If there's not a district or a utility formed and put into place, then there is a partnership which could potentially become very one-sided, and which we have seen in other situations become very one-sided.
All right, so if you can't answer my question, then maybe our attorney, Mr. Cutter, can. Does the council have to pass a resolution of support for the petition item? I'm referencing Indiana Code 132622 here.
We don't have the statute in front of us. But it's my understanding that
It refers to the fiscal body, and I'm interpreting that to be the county council.
that's correct.
Where's our new attorney from?
I'm sorry.
Where are you from?
My office is in Lebanon.
Lebanon, okay. I don't know that the IDEM has given them an order. But I don't know. It's on my Facebook page. I have the whole
So,
IDEM report.
right now, with the timeline that you have, you want to submit the petition to IDEM in June. And so you would need a resolution from the council prior to that to be able to submit to IDEM.
So actually, to clarify, that schedule that you have in front of you is tentative based on a resolution of support this evening. If that doesn't happen, the entire schedule changes, which also will delay the opportunity for the public engagement period. So that is just to clarify, I want to make sure we're not sharing misinformation about the timeline.
I'm reading the timeline that you gave me, and it is tentative. However, my point is that when I was reviewing Indiana code, it didn't appear to specify that our resolution of support had to be before the public meeting. And when I called and spoke to IDEM, they said that they don't care which order that it happens. So what we could do at this time is to table our resolution of support until after the public meeting. And as long as that public meeting and our resolution of support would happen before June, you would still be able to submit your petition to IDEM in the same timely manner. And we could hear from the public.
Conversations that others had with individuals at IDEM that I don't know who they were talking to or what their roles are.
Emily
I
Foss,
can
would you like me
only
to show you
speak
the
to
email?
the conversations that
It's
we
called
have had in
transparency.
meeting with IDEM and in meeting with the regulatory agencies.
Does our attorney have an opinion on if we have to have the resolution of support to move forward with a public meeting?
I do not. Do some research on it.
Okay.
Back to you, but I don't have an opinion on that.
Part of the consideration for the formation of the utility district is that in order to pursue, and I brought this up last month, but just to reiterate, in order to pursue the funding through the Indiana Finance Authority State Revolving Loan Program, the utility district needs to be the agency that would ultimately hold the bonds. Now, it doesn't mean that the county is not involved, because the county has to be involved throughout the process. However, we're working backwards from the timeline for the ARPA funds. If you recall, we've talked multiple times about appropriating ARPA funds for this effort over the past couple of years. And the council did finalize the appropriation for $3.5 million in ARPA funds last fall. If we do not spend those ARPA funds in the timeline, we can't use them on this project and they will have to be reappropriated. The reason that is important is that every additional piece of funding that we can put towards this project helps with the ultimate rate situation and helps with the overall funding package. So one of the concerns with delaying the formation and with not moving forward is that we will miss windows for funding opportunities that would allow us to take advantage of not only the ARPA funds, but also the subsidized loans through the Indiana Finance Authority and potentially forgivable loans through the SRF program.
Right, I'm not talking about messing with your timeline though. I'm just talking about us having the public meeting, which you already have tentative dates for, before the council says that we support it. Because if we say we support it tonight, then there's no reason to have that public meeting other than the fact that it's a formality and you're required to have it, because we can't then take that input and adjust if we're going to support the formation or not.
Correct.
And then at that point, the only way, if we did find out information at that public meeting that would make us change our mind, the only way that we would be able to stop the regional utility district at that point would be for the petition of opposition. And the way that I'm reading Indiana code, you would need to have the majority of the homeowners in the area sign that for it to be successful. And when you've drawn the boundaries as the entire unincorporated Monroe Township, you're talking about thousands of signatures that would have to be put on a petition in 180 days.
Are there any other questions from Ms. Baskin?
Well, to what Bethany was saying,
Can you speak up?
would it not be just the ones that are affected in that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Indiana code, I just read it. It reads as where the boundaries are. Hold on, I can look at it.
Currently, what are you looking at as the boundaries of this district?
The district is the unincorporated area of Monroe Township, as we discussed, with the initial project area of the Scotts and Phillips addition, or generally in the vicinity of those additions.
It says the majority of owners of property that would be served by the proposed district. So it's not talking about the initial project of Phillips and Scotts. It's talking about the proposed district, which is unincorporated Monroe Township.
Which is the largest
Are there other
township in the
Excuse me,
county.
sir, yeah, this isn't a time for public comment. Yeah, are there other questions? from the-
Even though you live there.
I was just curious as to what Councilor Keller was saying as far as the timeline goes. If this is something, if it's possible to go ahead and without having the council's support tonight to go ahead and go along with what comes next. And then after that public meeting, come back for the council support. Is that possible?
I have never seen one done that way. I've been in this industry a while. I do not know the answer to that question. We proceeded the way that we have been advised to proceed, the way that from both the state regulatory agencies, the state funding agencies, and our subject matter experts and our attorney. I can't speak to that, unfortunately. I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen one done that way, but I just don't know the answer to that.
And in the memorandum, it does state if the majority of the property owners that would be served by the proposed district sign the opposing petition, the petition to establish the RUD would be voided. So it's our understanding then that after all these meetings, gathering public opinion, making sure every single person is aware, because obviously not every single person is aware yet, but every single person affected is aware. After gathering that, then they would have the final say.
You have thousands of people you have to get to sign that. There's thousands of homes and.
I understand, but everyone would be informed. Sure, I guarantee it would be.
Other questions from the council?
Or you could just listen to your constituents first.
Right?
All looks on stage.
Thank you.
Council discussion with regard to the resolution?
I would like to make a motion that we encourage Jessica Basson to proceed with the timeline and that we table this until after the public meeting.
I would second that.
There is a motion. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Roll call, please.
A roll call.
Please.
Thank you.
Councilor Steele?
No.
Councilor Colt?
No.
Councilor Lycan?
No.
Councilor Grabowski?
Yes.
Councilor Keller?
Yes.
Vice President Norris?
Yes.
President Green?
So your physician doesn't care about your health. Right there.
We have a resolution before us.
Your physician does not care about your health.
Is there a discussion about the resolution or a motion?
I have one concern, and it's minor, but on the resolution, it doesn't say who it's prepared by, as far as like what legal firm wrote the resolution. Do we know who wrote it?
This is a big deal.
No?
No?
Jessica, do you know who drafted it?
answer that?
Yes, please.
It's prepared by the Commissioner's attorney, Jeff Graham, because at the time we do not have an attorney on board. So he prepared it for your consideration. It can certainly be modified as prepared. We send it over to.
So they're not even using their own attorney. No.
Mr. Cutter, have you reviewed it?
I have.
Do you have any concerns?
Any other discussion or motion?
I'll move that we pass resolution 2025-3B, a resolution regarding regional utility district.
Councilor Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Lycan?
Councilor Steele?
Yes.
Councilor Colt?
Yes.
Councilor Lycan?
Yes.
Councilor Grabowski?
No.
Councilor Keller?
No.
Vice President Norris?
No.
President Green?
Yes.
Somebody needs to take away his doctorates.
The next item of business is the alcohol beverage board appointment. I believe are Zach and Chad here?
Yes, sir. I'm Zach.
Zach, would you come on up and introduce us? Is Chad here tonight?
You're good.
Yeah, we have two gentlemen who have expressed interest in serving on this board. We have a appointment today tonight. Thank you for being here. Share a little about yourself.
Sure. Evening council. My name is Zach Schrader. I was born at St. John's, if you call it that now. Grew up just outside of Pendleton and Anderson, and went to Pendleton Heights High School, graduated in 2002. Spent childhood, summers, and weekends on Anderson University's campus because my grandfather was a professor and my grandma worked for WCG. So this area was my stomping grounds. I went to college at AU, and then I went to Lincoln Tech. 2013, I was hired by the Elwood Fire Department, became a full-time firefighter and EMT. So before that, I volunteered at Pendleton Emergency Ambulance and started that career. So I've been doing that since then. And I was union president of our fire department for 5 years, which is really nice because it gives us the opportunity to get back to the community. So fortunately, we don't really have many issues we have to deal with. So we're able to focus on raising money and giving back to the community. So we give scholarships and help sports teams and sponsor families at Christmas, things like that, to be able to just give back to the community that we live in and support. So when I was approached with the opportunity to possibly serve on this board, I thought it would be a great opportunity. I was excited about it. I really enjoyed being the union president. I handed that down to a younger fireman that's on fire about it. And if you understood the dynamics of the union in Elwood, you would know that not many guys are excited about that. So when he approached me and said, I'd really like to be president, and he had that fire, I felt it was my duty to step down and let him take those reins. But now I have the opportunity to be able to possibly serve my community on the county level. And so I look forward to that in any way I can. So thank you.
Hi, folks. Thanks for allowing me to be here tonight. I'll keep this brief since it's been quite a night already for you. Chad Roots, my wife and I own an appraisal business here in the town, Pendleton. We employ about 5 people. We have 3 kids. I have my master's in business administration from Ball State. Been active in the community in a couple of different roles. I did serve on the Alcoholic Beverage Commission probably about 5 years ago, I think. I had to leave that role for temporarily, took a new job, and that was a little bit more demanding. Couldn't serve in those roles. Now, since we started our own firm, that's got a lot more flexibility. Some of the things that I think are important to know about serving on the ABC is that it's much in your role, it's a very complicated position to delicately balance the needs of the public opinion, along with a lot of small business owners. The folks who are coming before the ABC are seeking either new licenses or oftentimes find themselves in violation situations. Sometimes those violation situations are not necessarily at their direct hand, but have occurred in their establishment. We have to take a delicate balance between all matters at hand and make some decisions both for the community and for the business owner. Those can be difficult. I think experience does matter when you have to consider all that. So happy to serve again. It is a pleasure, and thank you.
Really appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you.
Putting
Thank
yourself
you.
forward We only have one to be able to appoint, but we're just grateful that two of you are willing and may call the other one for another appointment at some point, should that be necessary. So anyway, just the idea that there are people willing to put themselves forward in public service is a great thing. So, thoughts, questions, or take a motion to approve one of these?
Make a motion to appoint Zach to the board.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Culp was the motion. Councilor Norick is the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Actually, there's a. Thank you. I'm going to actually want to come forward just a moment. There is a form to fill out. And that will, if you can fill that out, and that will come to the clerk's office where you can be sworn in. We'll get you the information about how to follow up for the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Next on the agenda is new money. Highway Department.
Good evening, Scott Harless, Highway Superintendent. What I have in front of you, the first one you're seeing for the 1169, the arterial fund, was actually already in the budget. Star forgot to send out the last payment of last year, so it was all part of our equipment line. So it just rolled right back into unappropriated. All this is unappropriated money that's in the highway fund, not general fund. So.
The new money for the arterial roads and streets, 1169. Is there a motion? Councilor Grabowski, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Culp, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you, sir.
The
next
second
one?
The next one on there, it's also for more equipment this year. We had our brine machine went out that we put brine on the road for the winter, kind of unexpected. And my bucket truck also went down this year, which is really unexpected. That was almost $200,000 that we weren't shooting for, that we had to make up because they wouldn't certify it. We're not going to send somebody up that you can't certify 60 feet in the air. So all we're doing is replacing that to get something else we wasn't able to get. So it's all unappropriated money also.
Any questions? I take a motion. Councilor Grabowski, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Culp, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you,
That's
sir.
all I got. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, county engineer. We're going to be taking these next two, 4926, 9126 together since they depend on each other.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So the grants that you, or the requests that you have in front of you are tied to our community crossings grant. The crux of why we need to do this is because the money that we had appropriated last year for these projects didn't get billed. The contractor didn't close out the project before the end of the calendar year. When we prepared our budget in July of last year, we expected them to. However, near the end of the year, we ran into some weather concerns, and so it pushed it into January before we were able to close out the project. So we weren't able to carry over the appropriations. The cash was still in both funds. This just allows us to pay those bills and then also set the framework for the next two community crossings grants that we have been awarded since the July when we submitted the budget. We were awarded just over $300,000 in the fall of last year, and then we were awarded $1.5 million just a month ago to be able to complete the paving projects for this year. Happy to answer any questions about those.
Questions?
So is the top one, is that the matching fund?
The matching comes from the wheel tax, yes.
Any other questions? Take a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Councilor Likens, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Grabowski, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you. The commissioners. Mr. Gardner.
Good evening, council. I think we were continued from last month on the capital asset and improvement fund. I can go back over those projects again if you'd like, but if we can get it to happen, I think we have photos of what we're talking about. That's helpful.
Sure.
Carol will help us with that, I'm sure. Star's fine. So one of the larger projects is the Star Bank building and parking garage. So those are small pictures, but as you can see the crack there in the wall. These are identified items by the county's engineer on the parking garage. That's one of the lesser worries. Also, that's damage from the roof, which I'll point that out here in a minute with you. Also, a roof issue on the Star Bank building in the stairwell. That's water that's got into the building. That's another area, a crack in the concrete header there over that door of the elevator. That's also a stairwell and water. I'm guessing that's the same stairwell. Also water infiltration from the roof. Same thing there. You can kind of click through those. I think they're just additional pictures of similar things. Here, can you blow that up? This is one of the things that were pointed out by the engineer on the parking garage and a needed repair. So that's infiltration of water from the top deck of the parking garage, which has caused some concrete damage there. I believe that's part of the ramp issue. That's a ceiling in the bottom level of the parking garage, I believe. That'll be the ceiling of the second level of the parking garage. That's the very top of the ramp going into the parking garage off of Main Street. As you enter the parking garage, that's to the right is the ramp coming up into that. Same thing, just a second picture of it. That's the underneath side of the parking garage. Sorry, you're gonna have to do them each separately, aren't you? Okay. Same thing, the ramp to the parking garage in another area. These are all different areas. Parking garage below the railing, where the railing attaches to the parking garage, and underneath where that fence is, there's dumpsters underneath there. You can see the rust from the railing there. All that will need redone. Again, above that, you can see where there's water infiltration there. That's in the ramp again. That's one of the columns that they identified that needed addressed. Again, the bottom side of the ramp, more railing damage there. That's course, the top deck of the parking garage. I'm sorry, that's the roof of the Star Bank building. We're over on the main building now. We went through those buildings along with many other buildings, but they are proposing that there could be some repairs done to that, but it's quite costly if that is completely repaired, but we're leaning toward that needing done, and that's part of this $1.2 million request for appropriation. I don't want to give individual estimates out yet because some of them came in high enough that they're over the threshold where we would have to get additional bids. So, well, all of it on the Star Bank building would be, but it's not gone out for bid on all that concrete work. This is just, this would be the roofing, and we would be required to get 2 other bids, and wouldn't want to give that number publicly until those others come in, so the vendors wouldn't be watching the video and come in with a bid that's right next to the others. So this is the historical chapel at the youth center. That is the basement area. One photo you can go through. There's another photo of the basement area. You can see the plaster down there about midway, the windows down. All has to be addressed. Of course, the paint on the entire basement of the building. And more basement pictures. The only thing that's being used for down there right now is storage of stuff that probably should be in a dumpster, but in my opinion. Again, that was a channel that runs up through the wall in one of the restrooms. You can move forward. Okay, here's the historical chapel built in 1924. All those columns would be required to be sanded and painted. The gable top, all that dental work would have to be redone. There's a side view, the same thing. All those windows need redone. Everything is in salvageable condition, and I would say decent condition, but needs addressed because there's a lot of paint that does not remain on those areas, which you'll lose those if they continue to be exposed to the weather. It's just additional pictures. That is the sanctuary part of the chapel. The mural in there, in case you're wondering, is from the 1970s orphanage home that was there before they built a new complex. You can see up right behind that fan and to the left of that fan, damage from a needed roof on that building. It is that's minor damage in there, but if it's not addressed and not doesn't become watertight, will become a real issue. And unfortunately, I made the comment earlier today, there's about 3 items in the county that we know of that we have that's historical. One is this chapel, one is the bell that's on top of the building, and one is a desk in my office that came from the old courthouse. So we want to do the best we can to preserve these historical items. There is an archway, you can flip on through. So that whole chapel area would need repainted. Also, that's the landing outside the chapel area. And then there's a 3rd floor that the maintenance crew would be capable of taking care of. And I think we're already planning on getting that done. That's another basement photo. Going back around, that same thing. All plaster works. It's out of So I wanted to show you these photos to show you how important it was that we take care of these before it goes any longer. The chapel area, like I said, we're getting some more quotes, but we had requested that $1.2 million. And if I itemize all these items, and we were to put a new roof on the Star Bank building instead of a repair, that would come to $1.258 million based on what we have today in our hands, and awaiting additional quotes in competition of what we have. So I don't know
Does
What
that
it-
1.25 million estimate include the professional services
It does
here,
not.
or are those just the repairs?
It does not. We've had to pay some professional service costs out of the maintenance budget. And we did, we tabled the whole thing last month, so we weren't able to get any of that, but do need some professional service. We believe all these should be capital project items. I'll just read through them real quick again. You got most of it there. You got the historical Brandenburg Chapel, roof and paint, preservation of the entire chapel, including the basement of the Star Bank building, issues with the concrete in the parking garage and ramp area, including roof work that needs done there. You have the repairs that's been made at MCCC, which has had to come out of the maintenance budget right now, but should be part of this whole capital repair thing. You also have the clock tower in that figure, and without any professional service work, it's 1.258. So, that fund, depending on interest rates, unfortunately, and if it's anything like my retirement fund was the last quarter, and I'm not real happy about that, but it would depend on we were banking on about $3 million or so going into that fund this year. It depends on interest rates and what they do, whether or not that fund would actually have that kind of money. And then we would have to prioritize what we would do based on that. Right now, it's looking okay still, but you don't know 6 months from now. So that's really all I have. Just a recap of last month. I wanted to show you some photos and see if you would possibly consider. I'd like to be able to say here are our quotes, but we're waiting on, I know, at least one more roofer, one more painter, and the parking garage has not went out for quote yet. That number will be big enough, far big enough, that it'll have to go out for a whole bidding process. But we do have estimates from the engineer that done the analysis on it and what he thinks it might be. So that's all I have. And unless someone has questions for me.
Have you guys looked at grants at all for the chapel for the historical aspect of it?
We do have a small grant that's available, a very small grant. And talked to Olivia about reaching out to prior donors in that. There's only about $5,800, $5,801 and change in that. It's not a grant, but it's a Madison County Community Foundation holds that grant donation over the years. There's only that little amount left. That could be part, actually, that could help us with that little bit that we're over. I would like to kind of fire that up on that and try to reach out to, with the other commissioners' help, to people that might want to donate toward that also. It's very important that we get a roof on that and keep the water infiltration out to preserve that building.
Do you have a sense of is there a use with it at this point? Or like what would be the plan?
Yeah, we're working on that. We have some ideas, nothing written in stone yet, but we do have some ideas for use of that building. We don't know how that's going to play out yet, but even if we don't have its preservation of the only historical building Madison County has left, somebody in some kind of odd wisdom in the 70s tore down a 1800s courthouse that it's a shame it's not sitting here today. That's what we do have, and we'd like to preserve it.
Questions?
Is there public comment?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Councilor Likens. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Steele.
Roll call, please.
Are we gonna have discussion?
I'm sorry?
Discussion.
Yeah, time for discussion.
Thank you for your time.
I know that we still are in a little bit of a quandary about these funds. Yes, I would like you to speak to that.
Yeah, from here or from here?
Actually, if you could speak up, it might be a little easier to hear, Bob. Thank you.
So, the county commissioner's attorney, Mr. Graham, and I have both researched the issue thoroughly and have traded memos back and forth. It is their position that the commissioners, by and through the Board of Finance, have the authority to go ahead and collect the interest through the ordinance that they adopted and place it into the capital improvement fund. My reading of the statutes is a little bit different in that the interest that is received from those investments should first be placed in county general and then you appropriate it. I'm not going to speak to anything about what your decision is in terms of whether or not you would appropriate it or would not, but it's essentially the difference between Mr. Graham's and my interpretation is strictly that. It's an interpretation of the statutes. And it all centers around a phrase, investment authority. Because the statute says that the investment authority shall oversee which general fund it goes into. My thought is the investment authority is the county. It's clearly public funds, county funds that are being invested that you're earning interest on. Mr. Graham's is a perfectly plausible reading also that he's saying the investment authority is the Board of Finance and the commissioners. Again, the Board of Finance is made up of 3 commissioners and the county treasurer. Unfortunately, when the legislature adopted these statutes, they did not define what an investment authority was. So it's perfectly plausible that it could be, it was the legislative intent that it be the Board of Finance and the commissioners. It's also very plausible that it could have been the county as a whole, which would be the commissioners and the council acting together. Again, the legislature didn't tell us what an investment authority was, and there's no case law on it. And there has been some movement, as I understand it, from recent commissioner conferences that it has been suggested that the commissioners have authority over this, but again, we just don't know for sure. There's no definitive answer. Mr. Graham and I did talk about possibly receiving an opinion from the State Board of Accounts or DLGF, but in both of our experiences, they usually just say consult your attorneys, which kind of puts us right back where we were. Mr. Graham and I suggested that it would be prudent, I believe, that the commissioners and the council have some further discussions about a compromise that wouldn't result in a stalemate between how this is funded. That it's some percentage going forward or whatever you and the commissioners think is most appropriate. But I don't want to speak for Mr. Graham, but I think he thought that was a good idea too.
So my question, one question that brings to mind is, obviously this is something new.
It is.
And generally, in order to have an opinion on it, a lot of times a judge will decide on that interpretation. I've been advised that like a declaratory judgment would be something that we could file for the court to make a determination on that. Is that right?
You could, but litigation is always fraught with issues and expenses.
Right.
Again, I think it might at least be interesting to see whether or not the State Board of Accounts was willing to give an opinion on it. That would give us here, as well as other counties that I'm sure are going through the same questions, some direction going forward. We just don't know that yet. You know, this issue has just bubbled up very recently, and certainly Rick and the commissioners need to move forward with some of these projects fairly soon. So I think in the short term, even if you do choose to seek a declaratory judgment, that process takes a while. By the time you research it and draft it and it gets answered, and it's at least a 6-month process. And so I would think it would behoove you in the short term to have some continued discussions with the commissioners to try and reach some accommodation in the near future.
And I'm not opposed to that at all. I just know that with statute generally it has to be a judge that makes a determination to make a point of what is how it's interpreted.
Generally, that's true, yes, generally. But I think, again, if the State Board of Accounts or DLGF would be willing to go out on a limb and make some determination for all counties going forward, or perhaps maybe the Attorney General's office would be in an issue.
So I guess I just want to know where we go from here. I know we've had conversations, I know you've reviewed things, and I'm not opposed to sitting down with the commissioners. As far as the DLGF and those people, those different organizations, is that something that we need to proceed forward with, or is that something you'll take care of for us?
Yeah, well, both. I think it would be helpful if Mr. Graham and I kind of joined forces and said, we would like an opinion on this one way or the other. And certainly we may need you to sign off on it, as well as the commissioners. And if we do seek an Attorney General opinion, it would probably have to come from you and or the commissioners. But it doesn't need to be adversarial. We just want an answer on what's the proper procedure.
Right.
So in the meantime, with these requests, I know since they've been tabled and they need to go forward or else they're going to lose some of their bids, momentum, and repairs. If, until we get that worked out, would approving this, that doesn't change?
It's not going to change.
Correct. So in essence, we're just approving
You're approving
an appropriation
that
is from the interest from the general fund.
Correct.
Yeah, oh, right.
Correct. And moving forward, once we get a decision or some guidance, one way or the other, whether it's State Board of Accounts or the AG or whoever, yeah, then we can work from that at that point. But yeah, I don't think you necessarily want to wait 6 months or however long to get that. And I know AG's opinions can take a while also.
So at a later time, yeah. So if we did choose to appropriate this, we can still decide, meeting with the commissioners, how we want to proceed.
I would strongly encourage you to do that going forward, because this, I doubt this is going to be the last request for their capital improvement fund. So I would encourage you in the short term to have the discussions with the commissioners, and Mr. Graham and I will work together on which body or bodies we would like to see some direction from.
So this allocation is just for the projects that they currently have that they're looking at, right?
I believe that's correct. I'll let you speak to that.
This 1.2 is just currently.
Can you speak up? This is a problem.
This 1.2 that you're asking to be
It's no help.
allocated is just for the projects that you have going on now, right?
Just for these projects that we talked about today, yes.
So when more projects come up, we'll be back in here for us to allocate.
A big part of our job is to take care of county assets, so
But you can't hear
we're
me.
constantly reviewing those. It'd be nice to have a categorized fund to do it out of, and then you can keep track of what you've been doing, what you spend on your assets. Like I said last month, we have about $160 million in assets, and as a general rule, 2 to 3% would be a number that should be spent on those assets during its depreciation time, which is far more than the $3 million. So hopefully we're looking at fixing the worst now and assessing the other stuff and doing preventive maintenance over time so it doesn't get to some of these points. So that's all we're after. But yes, only the projects that we talked about today. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Any other questions for Mr. Clutter, Mr. Gardner, or?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, I don't think we should be touching this money until we know what the final legal decision is. The commissioners have in their budget, I believe, a capital improvement line in there. I've always thought that the council was the fiscal body.
Yes.
I don't understand how money got into a fund without coming to the council. And I think that it's prudent for the council to make sure that we exercise our powers and not forfeit any of our powers as a council. So I don't know if there's like rainy day fund transferring some of that into their line, the commissioner's budget on that line for capital improvement until we have a final legal decision on this.
I find it prudent to take this money now that interest rates are high and we have this available and do some capital project funds, regardless of whether the authority, I'm not looking at the authority. If this is a project fund, the commissioners in charge of buildings and maintenance of our facilities, this is a request. And I'm glad you asked that question. We're not forfeiting or setting precedent that we must always grant. We still have the authority to appropriate or not appropriate the money. Whether it comes from our left pocket or right pocket, we still give them the purse. And I'm thankful we have this surplus of interest, and the Treasury's done a real good job of making it available and not hitting our general budget. When interest rates go back down, we won't have this available. Think of IT, we talked about.
Where's it gonna go?
Some of you may not have been here last year, some IT funds setting aside for replacement of assets. And that's what I see this interest being able to do because it's extra.
So last year at budget time, the commissioners had proposed, I believe, $1 million in a capital improvements line item under the commissioner's budget. And that was one of the first things that we cut when we needed to cut our budget. And so, one argument is we didn't have $1 million now, we really don't have $1.2 million, or we didn't have $1 million then, so why do we have $1.2 million now to appropriate to it? And then I'm not opposed to capital projects, but I am concerned with this process. And it feels a little bit like the council's been undermined through the whole thing. And I would rather see us take some rainy day funding and transfer it. And obviously we can't do it this meeting because it wasn't advertised. But take some of the rainy day funding and transfer it to that capital improvement line item in the commissioner's budget moving forward until we have an answer on this issue.
Other comments or questions? Mr. President, if I could say one more. Sure.
One thing you might consider is when we got our bond rating last year for the jail project, one of the high points of that bond rating was that we had paid off almost $8 million in pension plan debt, something the state of Indiana hasn't done. And we were the first in the state to do that. Secondly was our cash balances in rainy day and our general fund cash balances, and that played into our bond rating. And if you spend down your cash balances, there can be, I don't know that there would be, an acceleration of payment of bonds if you start spending your cash. I heard, nobody that's sitting here, but last year, right after the bond rating came out, the comment was made by a council person, well, we already got our bond rating, so we can spend that rainy day money. And that's not the case. It factors into what your rating is in the future and during the life of those bonds. And it's important to keep that up there. And as you spend your cash balances down, that's all factored into your rating. So just be cautious of that. That's all I ask.
I do have another question.
Sure.
You guys need to speak up.
So, when you the projected revenues for the county, I think that you were pretty conservative with our interest. What did you kind of project out of our interest earnings into projected revenues?
I'm not sure I'm with you.
It was estimated, we had gotten $4.5 million in
last year,
but
yes.
we budgeted
We downplayed
almost
that.
nothing
Yes.
to the
I'm
general
with you now.
fund. So we really had that was a cushion available.
Right.
Not knowing what interest rates would do.
Right.
Because you have to do it conservatively because you don't know what interest rates
Right. Right. Worried of what might happen is why we didn't allocate in the revenue stream for the council at budget time for this year or last year when you passed your budget for this year at $45 million, I think it was.
So this interest money is not something you necessarily want to set up reoccurring charges on because sometimes it's there,
That's right.
it's not.
I can tell you just a short few years ago, we were getting like 0.25% interest. Prior to Dan taking office, Dan Gerth, the current treasurer, which is doing a fine job, the last year of the previous treasurer, $86,000 in interest is all it was earned for the entire 12 months of the year. So we're talking about 3.5 million or 4.5 million versus 86,000, and it can nosedive. Like I said, the last quarter of the year for my retirement fund, wasn't very happy to look at. But you don't know what it's going. You just don't know what is going to happen. That's again why we, if you remember right, when we got the bond for the jail, we worked through Baker Tilly and bought, I think it was U.S. Treasuries we bought with that money and going to earn about $4 million on the borrowed money. So we borrowed money at 3 point something, and we were getting 4.5% on the money we borrowed during the time we're holding the money. So in the construction of the jail, that construction schedule and payments for construction was tiered with the retirement of those investments, so that we could squeeze every penny we could out of those investments. So there's another $4 million there. The costs are going up. It'll help cover some of that. But so everything we do, we try to do that way. In December of last year, we took, I don't remember, it's still here, $6 or $8 million of highway funds and invested that, and going to earn about $140,000 for the 2 highway funds that we invested from, to get more bang for the taxpayers' buck. So everything we do, we try to squeeze more out of it. And I don't know what that million was. I wasn't a commissioner last year. I was a county auditor last year, but so I don't remember that particular budget item. But everything we do, we try to make it go further. So that's what we've done here. But I'll be cautious about spending any general fund or rainy day fund balances down, because that was a note in our bond rating, along with the payoff of that pension plan and the balances.
So you're just wanting to spend this money that we temporarily have for this thing. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I do think overall, no matter how the vote goes, I do think we should continue to figure out between our lawyers.
Yeah, I think that's the intent right now, as far as I know. Everyone wants that to be where it belongs. It's just, there's no precedent to say exactly, and it's a little, I'm on the legislative committee for AIC, and oftentimes in the law, it's not clear. Oftentimes it's not clear. So, but there's no doubt what I showed you today, those items need taken care of one way or the other. Now that funding in that fund, that interest goes in there monthly. So like there's not $3 million, there's not $1.2 million in there today, but over a few months period there would be. So
Rick, out of curiosity, in the next 30 days, how much of that 1.2 million do you think you would need to spend? Just
yeah,
Can you speak up? Like, I don't know.
Out of that 1.2 million, I'm asking him in the next 30 days, how much of that he would need to spend?
I don't know in 30 days, but the MCCC repairs are done, and they're going to come, if they're not already paid, they'll be coming from the maintenance budget, which will deplete that. So that would be an item that we pay out there. That was $70,000. So, I mean, if we get on the ball, this storm is probably going to slow us down a little bit, because we were delayed a month because of the question about this fund. And now we've had 4 tornadoes hit the county, so we might be in line for roofs. So I don't know that we'll get a roof put on the chapel this month. So my position would be all these small projects, I knock them out as quickly as possible. The painting on the chapel, the roof on the chapel, the MCCC repairs would be paid for. I think the one we would have hanging there would be the Star Bank building and any repairs related to it. Those would be the biggest ones, because there's a process to get bids, so many days, advertisements, all that stuff. So, and that's the biggest piece of that.
So okay, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. So I guess my thought process in that is going is, instead of appropriating 1.2 million today, I would like to maybe appropriate 500,000, and then hopefully by the time we come around April, we'll have some resolution to the questions that we have on those funds, and I would feel more confident about appropriating that money, if that makes sense.
So there is a motion and a second on the table for the $1.2 million repair. Are you proposing an amendment?
I'm proposing an amended motion of making the amount of money that we would agree to appropriate tonight. Instead of 1.2, it would be 500,000.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
To amend. There's Councilor Norick made the motion, Councilor Borowski seconded it. Any discussion to that amendment motion?
Is this new money?
Make sure it's in the right fund now, because do you know which funds?
Yes,
I think we would need about 50,000 in the professional service line and 450 in the, I'm not sure if it's 44.
If there's 500,000, you're asking for 50 and 450.
Yes, because we need to do some, pay for some of our architecture work, so things like that. Yes.
Are you okay with?
Yeah.
So the amended motion is 50,000 for professional services, 450,000 for repairs and maintenance. Councilor Grabowski, are you okay with that?
So have expenses already been incurred without an appropriation?
I think they were paying out of another fund.
They were going to exhaust all the funds.
So like
So it hasn't
MCCC,
been
I don't know,
appropriated.
has MCCC been paid yet?
That's a Class B misdemeanor.
Todd, you know?
That's a Class B misdemeanor. Cannot spend money
You know?
that's not been appropriated.
Not yet, it hasn't been paid yet.
Is there discussion to the amendment?
Class B misdemeanor.
All in favor of the amended motion? We'll do a roll call.
Councilor Steele,
Yes.
Councilor Cole,
Yes.
Councilor Lakin,
Yes.
Councilor Grabowski,
Yes.
Councilor Keller,
We're voting to amend, right?
We're voting to amend the motion.
Okay, yes.
Vice President North. Yes. President Green.
Yes. So now we have a new motion. Well, I just want to clarify where we are. So the motion has been amended to now allocate 50,000 in professional services and 500,000 in repairs and maintenance. Sorry, 450. Thank you. So I would take a motion to approve that amendment.
We approve the amendment. The main motion is still active to be voted on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My intention was to say the main motion.
Which was for
Which
1.2
we already-
million. Right?
1.2 million is now been amended.
Can you talk into your mic?
We approved, that's okay, we approved the amendment to the motion, now we have to approve the motion.
Modified the amounts.
Yes, we modified the amounts, we have not voted on the motion. Sorry to confuse you, don't mean to. So I now need a motion.
It's already done. It's already been first and second.
The initial.
That's
There you go.
correct.
This is why a first year should not be the president of the council.
Final motion.
This is exactly why a first year should not be the president of the council.
No.
Right here.
The amended amount.
Can I ask?
This is why he should not be the president.
So the historical bell that they're going to restore in the courthouse, is that part of what we're going to be voting to approve? Because it's coming out of maintenance instead?
He said the chapel and the Star Bank building. I think that was it.
But who's going to audit that to make sure?
So the, initially you had mentioned that, today you didn't mention that, so is that also something?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so we're going to sneak that in there?
So during the commissioners meeting, maintenance said that they had enough money in their budget to pay for the bell and that they didn't need to ask the council's approval of that. So are we now approving money through this for the bell and you're gonna transfer it somehow?
We would like the bell paid through the capital project fund because we believe that's where it's at. To get that started, yes, the initial payment will pay out of budget.
Then they're good.
And that's where it needs to stay, I think. I don't think we need to be paying for it out of this as well.
Agreed.
If they could do it without asking the council, then
they can pay for it out of their budget.
So there's a motion on the floor.
I do have one more question.
Speak into that mic.
Will this,
It's not, you're not in.
500,000, will it get you stuck in the middle of any projects that you'll have to, like, as an emergency, come and ask for more money as you're stuck in the middle of a project?
I think most everything else would be related to the bank building.
And you have a quote process, an extended quote process, it'll take you beyond 30 days.
Yeah, probably more like a couple of months, but.
Thank you for clarifying. So other discussion to the main motion.
So is there a way I can phrase a new motion or an amendment so that the bill is not paid out of this capital fund? Is there a motion I can make to word it that way?
I don't necessarily think that's under our.
Speak into your mic, Jonathan. Or find a mic that works.
Not working.
Other discussions to the main motion.
Yeah. The only comment I like to make is if we had better communication with the commissioners, this could have been a lot smoother. And also, it's just, we were caught off guard by this when we just come to the February council meeting and find out that money's just been transferred out of the general fund. And now we're going to be in the negative at one point before that first property tax draw comes. So
I'm not sure those are really good. But I hear what you're saying. Other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the sheriff, the county sheriff training.
Hello, Council, John Beeman here. This is, I know it's listed under new money, but it's more of an accounting change that the auditor's office has requested out of one of our special funds. It's now going to be called others under our training line 4001. Is what this money is. This shows 11,800. We're taking it from one of our special funds, renaming it county sheriff training now.
Other questions? Sheriff? Take a motion. Motion to approve, Councilor Colt. Is there a second?
second.
Second, Councilor Grabowski. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thanks, Sheriff. If you'll just stay there for a moment. Next is the public hearing items. We'll hear from the sheriff and then hear from the public.
I will withdraw this 3,000. This was a sale of a trailer from the sheriff's department to EMA that falls under that guidelines the council president has established of keeping minor funds in the general fund and then come back later time if we need monies for specific items within our general budget. So I just withdraw this $3,000.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there public comment?
No.
Is there any public comment? Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
See why he shouldn't be the president?
Might be a blessing. Well, the next is our county agent. This, you had a note with regard to the funding for the American Red Cross CPR training. The Stoller was not able to be here this evening. Normally we don't consider such funds without someone being present.
But we'll do it
On the other
anyways.
hand, she articulated in her email the situation. We have good documentation.
Then it can go to next month.
$240 to reimburse for the training for CPR.
Did she talk about this last month? I don't know why, I feel like there was something else that I saw this.
It was in the packet, very early in the packet, so you would have read it a long time ago.
So I would take a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Councilor Likens, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Cole, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Oh, thank you. Public comment. Is there public? Thank you. Councilor Steele. Is there public comment with regard to, we're going to suspend that vote to hear from the public with regard to CPR training at the extension. Seeing none? Once again, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is maintenance. Someone here from maintenance?
No, that definitely should get tabled then.
Anyone here from maintenance to address the sale of the truck?
Sheriff's gonna get in touch with you.
Thanks, sir.
You just find out.
Okay.
People are
Council, would you
leaving.
be okay if we went on to
Speak.
surveyor and then came back to maintenance? Since he, I understand, is he coming? And the impression I have that he was coming. You guys okay to move on to surveyor? Kim?
President Green, Vice President North, Council. I come to you asking for $20,000 added to the general fund from the general fund into a position I'm trying to obtain. When I ran for this office. At the time I ran for it, I had some plans that if I got elected, I'd like to see differently and put a business plan together. I talked to you guys previously that I will be coming in front of you, and there's some things I'd like to see that we can enhance the surveyor's office that we haven't done. Not that they don't want to do it, it's just we didn't have enough hours in the day to do it. Just not enough people. There's only 3 people in that department at this point. So I gave you a business plan my first 90 days in office. And I came in with the attitude of treating it like a business. So I looked at the work we're doing well at, what we can improve at, and if I had another person, what's the return on the investment? What can I get out of that? I was challenged by Rob that show me where the money's, as long as you don't take money out of the general fund or if you're going to break even with it, show me where the revenue is and how you're going to make money off this job. It was a good challenge. So I looked at it, and one of the first things I did, and you have it in your packet, many counties have a financial developer financial responsibility form. It looks like this. So I went to the drainage board and I presented a form like this and said, I'd like to have the county adopt it. What does this mean? This form is, in the past, when a developer would come to the county, he or she, they would bring a plan or a concept. Well, we have to do stormwater management, and we all know what happened this last week with all the rain. So stormwater management is very important to Madison County, like any other county. With that being said, I asked the drainage board, we've been using taxpayers' money to pay for a program that I don't think it should be shifted to a taxpayer any longer. We should make the developers pay for it. They're making the money when they build their homes, the subdivisions. Let it be part of their cost of doing business, not the cost to the taxpayers of Madison County. The board approved it, so we came up with the financial form. So going forward, if you would come in with a concept or a plan, we would send you to an engineer, which is right now Banning that we've been using, and they would tell us how many hours it would take. They would let the developer know that, and there's a cost to it. The cost is paid from the developer to the engineer. We no longer pay for that.
We spent about $28,000 last year doing that program, that we just gave out that money without holding developers to that finance. I have $20,000 in professional service. I will go through that this year, plus another 20. I would have to come ask for another $20,000 because we have many things in the pipeline. I gave you in your packet, we have many projects coming in, subdivisions, industrial, warehousing. We have 7 subdivisions, 1,715 homes, 50 homes that are going to come in this Madison County in the next 3 years. A mile down from us is Hamilton County. We just approved, the Drainage Board just approved, permitted a 250 home out at 800. The homes are going to go minimum 300. 300 is really baseline. They're going to be around $400,000, but we use 300. We're not going to embellish on a number, we just use 300. We know a mile down the road, the same homes go for 500,000 plus in Hamilton County. With that 300 homes that the board approved, that will give you $75 million in AV value. If you have a 1% homestead, that's $750,000 of value coming to the county at that point. So I got with Todd, I said, okay, we need to break it down to what the county tax is and what the Ingalls tax is at that point. We came up with the number which you guys have on your form of $230,000 basically. That's new money coming to the county at no cost to no taxpayers. We think after today, we talked about it because Mrs. North brought up last night, what about the Hume Bridge, the health department, the reassessment funds? After looking at those numbers, we think the number is going to be close to $300,000 that we're going to be putting into the general fund, just approving one subdivision at 250 homes. There's 7 of those coming. They'll be here real soon. What we also did on the board, the drainage board, is that we've been asking the developers to pay for the drainage, the new pipes where it's going to go through at this point. We don't have $3 to $5 million in the county sitting to pay for that infrastructure. We need the developers to do it. They can do it cheaper than we can. They can get it quicker than government can. And they can charge an impact fee on each one of those lots to pay for what we're asking to control the stormwater. Because if we don't control the stormwater, we've band-aid that situation for many years down in the south. It's just going to get worse. So we're looking at being proactive 10, 20 years down the road. Let's do it right this time so we don't have to go back and revisit a second time. So when Rob challenged me on what it was going to bring in, $300,000 is what I'm going to give you. So I'm a business guy. I'm looking at strictly dollars and cents at this point. If I have to come back and ask another $20,000, now I'm in $40,000 into this program that we'd already changed. And if we didn't permit the new phase 1 of the ridge down in Ingalls, nothing and nothing is nothing for the county. We would get nothing at that point. So we're being proactive. The board, the drainage board, is doing a great job looking at it, trying to get these projects up and running. But we're not giving away our resources just because you come here and you're going to tell us you're going to put 500 homes in Madison County. That's great. But we have guidelines now, that we have in place. We're going forward. We're going to do it correctly. It's just not going to be uncontrollable growth down in Ingalls and that any area that might come at this point. So what I gave you was, so I'm going to bring money to the general fund. I'm not asking any more that I've already going to save the general fund from doing this financial form, but I'm going to use it in a different way. This person, this is my office, and I've used this to each one of you guys, so bear with me here. This is our office. This is the stormwater management. This is what we have to do when we permit. It's a big job. This is another part of the job, cornerstones. I have to do 5% of cornerstones per year. Is there anybody following up behind us saying, hey, you didn't do it, you're in trouble? No. Our county's huge. We are huge. We're 450 square miles. It's huge, guys. With that being said, there's about 200 or 2,000 cornerstones. We might have updated up to 200, maybe up to 200. We just got the mapping with GIS and redid it. Part of this job is going to be paid out of Cornerstone Perpetual Fund. 55% of it will be. By statute, if I take 100% out of Perpetual Fund, I have to use that person 100% to do Cornerstone. Well, I would be lying. It wouldn't be 100% of the job. And if I got audited from the State Board of Accounts, I would be in trouble. So with that being said, I have to come to the general fund and ask for 45%, which is $20,000. That person's going to do Cornerstone, manage it. We've met with 4 surveyors about 2 months ago. We have a plan together. We got our first group of Cornerstone markings that just came in over the weekend. And we think we're going to do between 10 to 15% of Cornerstone markers this year alone. That's better than last year. We have a plan now. There's a plan moving forward. Maybe in the past we didn't have it. I wasn't there. I just know going forward as a business person, we have expectations. My job is to put a system in place and make sure it works. The second part of that job is reassessment of drains. This is what confuses everybody. When people say they pay for reassessment on your property cards, that's reassessment on your property tax. Has nothing to do with the drains. I have 371 drains in the county. 200 of them are on maintenance. 171 are not. This is our map. This is a huge map. There's a lot of drains there. A lot of drains. Our drains hasn't been reassessed, and I give you a conservative number of 30 years. There's some that's been 50 years. By law, I can take the drains up 25%, but if you're only paying $1 an acre, what's a quarter going to do? If that assessment was put on 50 years ago, maybe that pipe only cost an 8-foot piece of pipe $1. Today, we know the price is 25 bucks. I can't get much done at that point. I have to have hearings. And in these hearings, which I've sent to you, I have a format that we have to go through, that we have to follow to send it out to everybody in the watershed. Every name you see on here is considered a watershed. Watershed could be small number of people, parcels, or it could be many. Duck Creek, Elwood is huge. So we will have to have hearings. What I come across since I've been in the job has been, hey, can you help me out here? I want to help everybody. I've been in many situations in the last 90 days through this county. I'm looking at it, I'm listening, I'm getting educated, A, by the farmer, to tell me what their needs and wants are. When I have to come to you in the watershed, and assume that you're in the watershed, I have to present what I need, what it takes to maintain that drain. And there's a lot of questions I asked. I have a form now that we will fill out that we never had before, and we will have it for every single drain in the county. That's going to take some time. And on this form, it has things like how many acres it is, if it's tile, open ditch, if it has brush, medium, heavy, it doesn't need mow, doesn't need spray. If it's a ditch, do we have to dip it out, meaning going down, grab the stuff, get it out of there? All that, there's a cost to all that. Our job is to educate. Most people do not understand what the maintenance of a drain is at this point, or the assessment. Maybe their parents owned the property 40 years ago. Maybe they just bought it 5 years ago, and guess what? Mom and dad never told them what that really meant. I get more questions about, why do you want to reassess it? Is that going to cost me more money? It probably will. There's no doubt about it. But when I have a hearing and we present all the evidence to everybody in the watershed that shows up like they would, if this was a watershed, everyone could tell me why they should have it or shouldn't have it. My job is just to deliver a message. Here's what it takes. You called. Here's what it costs to maintain that drain this year and each and every year. This group can just say, hey, I'm good. I accept that. Instead of $10 an acre, I'll pay the $10, or maybe I'll just pay $5 an acre. Can we amend it to $5? And at $5, I would say, if that's what you want, here's what I can give you going forward. just keep this in mind. You're asking for this, and I'm gonna give you this at this price, but if you come back and say, I only want to pay this much, I can only give you that much. We can only pay what's in the account, in the drains. The drains, when I took office, there was 81 drains in the red. First question I ask when everybody calls in, whoever calls in, which is mostly farmers, is how much money do we have in the account? Do we have the money to pay for it? And if we don't, I have to have that tough conversation. And the first words out of their mouths that I've come across has been, well, just put it in the red. Guys, I'm very conservative. If I can pay it back in 3 years by statute, and if it makes sense, I will do that. But to put an account in a red just because, I'm not the person. Because they believe we live in our means. But my job is try to figure out how to get the money, the max out of it, and get the most I can. So, Mr. Green, if you would call me and say, hey, I need mowing, spraying, and I need dip out of my drain, I can tell you, I can dip your drain. I can put a Band-Aid on it and dip it, but I can't mow it and spray it. You're gonna have to do it yourself. Well, what do you mean? There's no more money in there. I just don't have it for you. So this person's gonna have a two function, is cornerstone, reassessment, getting the forms filled out, getting the hearing set up so we can bring the people in the watershed. In the last 8 years, we've only done one in the surveyor's office in the last 8 years. We put 13 drains on maintenance in the last 8 years. Now part of my job is look at the 200 that's not on maintenance, the drains, talk to the people in the watershed. That's me talking to them, nobody else. I'm the one that will have the conversation and say, here's why we need it. Every time you call in, we can help you, but here's a log that we've had since you called in. We can make it work, but it's gonna cost you some dollars. And have a hearing, and they can come in and say, I want to be put on a maintenance, or they don't. If they choose not to, they've been educated. I can't help them when they call in and say, hey, like this weekend, all the rock, I have nothing. I have this culvert now that is bare, and can you help me? And I have to tell the person, I'm sorry, I have no money in there. Well, what am I supposed to do? It's on their property. I can't answer that for them. So I need your help to vote on this, that I need another person. This office used to have 7 people a few years back. A couple years ago, it used to have additional 2 more. We only have 3. I need to be able to serve the taxpayers and the people in the watershed. And I'm not asking any new money, because if I had to come back and ask you for additional funds from professional services, it has to be done. Somebody's gonna have to pay the bill. I won't have to come back and ask you for that additional funds. I've already paid for it. And permitting the subdivision, guess what? I have a revenue that came in of we think $300,000. That's just one subdivision. So I'm giving you that. I'm giving you the return on your investment. I'm taking care of what Ms. North brought up. I'm taking care of that at that point. And I'm not asking to spend that money, saying that, hey, if I brought you 300, can I spend it 300? I ain't even asking. I'm just asking for one person without getting any further in the weeds. And I've talked to each and every one of you guys, and I told you that I would send you an email, spreadsheet, gave you a packet today. I kept everything I said. I treated it like a business. If you were my bank, I would come to you, Mr. and Mrs. Banker, here it is. It makes great sense. Here's why I need to borrow the money. Can you help me? And that's where we're at.
I think you've done an amazing job.
Can you speak into your microphone?
I think you've done an amazing job as far as pulling all the data together and seeing how that revenue source is going to help us. Unfortunately, it's not going to help us this year. And I'm just going to give my concern. I think that the employee would be a great asset to your department. But as you saw earlier today, we're gonna be in the red in May, and somehow, you know, we're gonna have to be able to fund the general fund budget in May. I don't remember how much was in the hole on the screen today. And if I add an additional employee onto that, even at $20,000, that's an additional revenue. It's not revenue, it's an additional expense that I'm gonna have to cover. So, I mean, this is absolutely something that I would wanna consider at budget time, having that employee, you know, we talked about having was it 5 items on a second column, that you really are requesting that you feel is really necessary, to look at for next year when we know that revenue will be coming in, but those are just my concerns with the whole thing.
Could I comment back?
Sure.
And I don't take it to be negative, please, because I'm not taking anything personal here. I've been around this county for many, many years, and I've heard that story. We'll look at it this time. Well, that time never comes and goes. For some reason, something else comes up, and there's never a good month to ask for money. I can tell you that right now, because today is April. May is just another day for me to come back. It is at that point, and I make a joke, and Dr. Green, I used that with you about Shawshank Redemption, that there's never a good month to ask for money, and I understand that. But I'm asking not walk over dollars for pennies. I'm asking to look at, okay, you got to put an investment into me for a short period of time, but your return is going to be huge, and it's going to be huge for the taxpayers. And sometimes you got to step back and say, okay, I'll take the hit for a month or whatever, like you're talking, which is going to be, I mean, if we want to break it down for the $20,000 I'm asking you in that month, let's assume that it's $600 a week, $2,400 for the month. $2,400 is not going to make a big difference of what Todd showed up on there at that point. And I'm not making light of money, but it's really a small number compared to what you're talking about until settlement that comes in June. It really is a small number, but my slow time is in summer. I can get this person up and running and trained. So during the slow time, we can get moving where we need to be. And that's where I'm looking at, if I can get it now, I can get a person hired, he or she, get it moving, get them trained. And we know the hardest thing, all of us, if you own a business, you know the biggest part of it, we don't get training dollars. So I don't have a kitty. I have to then say, okay, it is actual money that you're giving me. There's no slush fund, no kitty that, hey, but it's the cost of doing business. And this sometimes is the cost of doing business. And it's a month of pain you might have for the $2,400, break it down. But I'm telling you, for me, it's like moving a mountain. It's huge when I can get this person. It means that much to that department.
Any questions or comments?
I think if we could guarantee that down the road for departments that might come back and ask for money when they may or may not have managed the budget, maybe how we would like that. You know, like with the rest of the council, if we can guarantee maybe later down the road, we could tell someone else no that maybe wouldn't need it as badly. This would be something I could support. However, without that, you know, I know there's no way to guarantee that from the council. This is something I would love to do. I think it is very necessary, but we try not to practice hiring employees, I know, mid-year. And when we stick to that, it works out better. And I understand we'll get to it at budget time. And I know that she means that, and I do too. It's not something, we have said it before, and it's maybe not worked out. We have merit officers that we're working on for next year. I don't know that it would help if we could try to do this maybe in 3 months to help you out, but it is difficult. And if we could tell others no, then maybe we could do this. But if we can't have any more restraint, like we haven't had in the past, then I don't see how we can. You've done brilliant things, and thank you for all the efforts that you've made with just a simple piece of paper and having them sign those. So I know you are making more revenue come back into our county. So I think if there's any way we can do it, we should, but if we can't commit to not spending irresponsibly in August like we have in the past, then we should. Just my 2 cents.
Other questions or comments from Mr. Krasinski?
I just want to say thank you for the presentation and the work that you've put into this. I feel like this is something that directly impacts the residents of Madison County, and that it would be a benefit for them. And I think it's good when we can encourage departments to think of ways to come up with, ways to fix problems. And that's what you've done here. And I appreciate that. And I think as a council, we can be supportive of that as far as our consideration of these requests. We want to send a positive message to departments that are willing to look real hard at where they can maybe work more efficiently, manage their staff more efficiently to get the most bang for our buck. So I appreciate the work you've done.
I think this is a great proposal, and I appreciate all the work you've done for it. When I'm looking at if I'm going to approve something, especially a new position or not, are the taxpayers going to see a difference? Are they getting more services? And in this case, I think that they would. And I think I can tell people no. The council's told people no before, and I think we have to take it on a case-by-case basis. And what I don't want to see happen is if we were to approve this, then next month we have 5 departments lining up wanting new employees. However, I think this situation is different than I've seen from other departments, and I would be in favor of it tonight.
I just want to say one other thing on this is the cheapest way we're going to get an employee for this position. I mean, by far. So I think utilizing the position now, you're making sure you can maximize their efforts coming your busy season instead of having to train them in the middle of your busy season. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Comments or questions from the council? We'll take public comment. Thank you, Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you.
If you would just, we're going to have your public comment and then.
Is there a motion?
Well, we have to have a motion. I apologize.
Can I ask a question?
I would take. Sure.
Okay. If we make a motion to approve and it fails tonight, can he come back and ask for it again, or does that just?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I'll make the motion we approve.
Motion to approve the request from the surveyor's office. Councilor Keller, and a second, Councilor Grabowski. Okay. Now public comment.
Dr. Katherine Callahan from LaPel. I just need to understand, I'm not sure where you guys went to business school or math school or wherever that is. You got a gentleman up here telling me he's going to bring $300,000 in the general fund, and you guys are debating over this. You're talking about how fiscally responsible you want to be, but you just pissed away $500,000 to the commissioners who have no plan and then wanted to sneak in the clock over it. Come on. I mean, I don't know about you, but in my training, learning by fire, being thrown to the wolves, usually ends up with not retaining people and they leave. So he has a solid business plan to give $300,000, and you guys have to debate over this. You've got $500,000 that went out the window tonight to fix a building. You've got a room full of people that you have not listened to tonight who are drowning in water. Maybe if we had more people to help the surveyor, they wouldn't be in the position they are. These people are suffering, and you are debating whether or not we need to get some drainage person in there, but we need to fix the roof on a star building? Are you kidding me? This shouldn't have even gone on this long. All of you should have said, no, we're not giving you that money for that star bank. Go get some tar. You know why? Because what you've told these people is just go get a canoe. You're not helping them. I've worked in Haiti. I have done mission work in Haiti. That is how these people are living. And there should never be a reason that they're living like this. And you, Dr. Green, you know healthcare. One person has had a heart attack over this. I've had 3 siblings that have died in the last year, all from that area. All 3 had cancer. I did genetic testing. None of it's genetic tested. None of it genetically tested that it was related. And nobody's moving on this. You want to listen to Jessica Bastine get up here and tell us that she's just now getting started on something that's been going on since 2018. And then you wear down the people that leave? This man needs that person. We need this person. We need the $300,000. And hopefully at some point, you will tell the commissioners no. You will say, we are the responsible body. This is ridiculous, and that clock should never come out of here, and maintenance should never get another dime until the next year. Now, we have to look at needs and wants. We need something done in this county. I do not know how you people in good faith can tell people that they can come build homes in this county when we can't even take care of our own. Get it together.
Other public comment? Please. Just state your name.
Okay. I'm David Sargent. I live on Ivy Lane. I'm also a precinct committeeman at Fall Creek 1. I've had people whisper in my ear the amount of work that Ken has been doing as surveyor. Very good things. I haven't heard anything bad. From what I gathered into his statements, basically he saved over $20,000 in fees for the county already, which would cover that new employee with the new funding with the sheet where the developer has to pay those costs instead of the county. So he's revenue neutral. That is something you can consider on that. One of the other concerns I do have is when he talked about stormwater. I remember a friend of mine who worked for the city of Anderson says, fine, they can do the stormwater work, put in the stuff, but it has to be according to our requirements as far as materials and engineering on that. I'm sure Ken will take care of that. But if it's revenue neutral, and he's shown that it will be revenue neutral, I think that the council ought to give serious consideration and approve this now so he can get the training in before he needs the people in the fall. Thank you.
Your name and address?
You don't have to give your address. You don't have to give your address.
My name's Stephen Geyser. I live in Alexandria. I firsthand have knowledge about the drainage problems and what, I also know the two individuals that also work in the drainage department. And I know that if one of them decides to leave, he will be deeply hurt and not able to train someone to take her spot quick enough. If you guys allow him to have an extra person, it will be a little bit easier if someone decides to leave that office to help train other people to come in too. It's not just about finances at this point. It actually is more about keeping employees happy too, because those two other employees I know get extremely stressed out about their duties. They have a lot on the plate. And like you said, there used to be 7 people in that office. And those 7 people are down to 3 people doing all that work. To me, right there, you save that money when you cut down 7 people from that office. So that money is really already there, just refunded to a different department because over time. You've got to look at personnel issues too. That's more, HR. There's funds that you can use to get by for that month of May when you're going to be seeing negatives. And we've done it multiple times in the past when we've been negative. It's, when the highway works and say they have a huge winter and have to work, 12-hour shifts all winter long. The money in the budget for them would be busted if they weren't allowed to use like their comp time and stuff like that to build. So there's always emergencies and there's always things that's going to come up. But personnel should be number one priority for the county. I mean, there's lots of stress-related issues with working, and overworked people don't do the best job. And basically what he's trying to do is to free up some stress for his employees. He's trying to be a better boss than a lot of people are in the county. And that's all I have to say.
Cheryl McKinney, 46012. I think what Ken's asked for is $20,000. He's already told you he saved $300,000 by having the developers pay for this that the county typically was paying for. I don't even understand where the argument can even be.
Right.
You gave Rick $500,000 like it was nothing.
Yep.
And this is helping everybody in the county. Whether the chapel gets fixed or not isn't helping me. You even asked yourself, what does the residents of the county get out of that? We don't know. We're looking into that. You know,
And you
the
still
Star
gave it.
Bank building. Do we not have tenants in there? Can they not pay that? They should be providing their own revenue source. It shouldn't be on the taxpayers' heels. Ken is up here trying to help save money, and not only save, but he's also increasing revenue. So by all means, please let him have an employee. And I'd be the first to admit we don't need to have new employees throughout the year, but I think there's an exception to the rule, and this is our exception. Thank you.
Nathan Hollingsworth, Alexandria, Indiana. I'll make this short and sweet. I don't know Ken. I've been in the audience for the problem with Alexandria. But from what I have perceived is you made the man a challenge, said, show me the revenue. He's came through, followed through that. If you say no, are you lying? Simple. Ms. Keller has offered a couple different options, it sounds like, as far as how to not give the $20,000 in one lump sum. The guy, you guys have challenged him, and he followed through above and beyond most any officials do. Give the guy his money, plain and simple.
Nick Freeman, State Street in Anderson. That income that Ken is talking about is a yearly income, especially when last council meeting you guys denied $120,000 allocation to the IT department for their demand and need. He's created your revenue.
Yeah.
He's got $300,000 a year to allocate. Why not go back and approve that and make sure that's in her budget for next year, so that way she gets the help she needs? Because it's going to be great. You hire an employee. What if they don't have equipment? What if it breaks? What if they don't have the resources to allocate? Especially, she was sitting in here closing tickets as the director this whole time during this meeting. Give her a hand, especially with the revenue that you generate from this position. That's all I would ask.
Anyone else? There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
The motion was for
Motion is to approve.
the new money and the transfer, the corresponding transfer.
No, we haven't done the transfer. This is the new one. Any other discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. We now have back to the transfer. In fact, Ken, if you want
I want to thank
articulate.
I want to thank the people that spoke. Thank you. The transfer is, I'm paying 25 out of perpetual fund. 55% of this job is going to be for Cornerstone. So the transfer is, the money's there. I'm just moving it to be able to pay in the salary part of it at that point. I'm going to pay $15,000 for part-time, so I'm eliminating a position of part-time at this point. I still have money there that I can bring in for part-time if I have to. But it also, then I took away from machinery of $4,000 to cover FICA and so I'm just transferring, I have that sitting there, I'm just transferring over so we'll be able to pay.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Keller, a motion to approve the transfer. Counselor Grabowski. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the salary ordinance, first reading for the surveyor.
Is maintenance going to be heard?
What's that?
Is maintenance going to be heard?
Did they come back? Thank you. Maintenance is our.
I tried calling him and he didn't answer his phone.
He is, okay, well, then, I guess the answer is no. That's not mine. So we're on to the salary ordinance first reading. This would be salary ordinance 2025-4C.
New surveyor's position.
New surveyor's position.
I'll move.
Motion, Councilor Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Culp, any other discussion? We'll do a roll call.
Counselor Steele,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Lycan,
Yes.
Counselor Grabowski,
Yes.
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Vice President North,
Yes.
President Green.
Yes. Thank you. Next is the second reading of ordinance 2025-3C for adult protective services. This is a carryover from last month. That was 6 and 1. They articulated by email the rationale for their absence, and we're here for a second reading. I would take a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Councilor Likens, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Borowski. Any discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Steele,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Lycan,
Yes.
Counselor Grabowski,
Yes.
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Vice President North. Yes. President Green.
Yes. Thank you. Make sure your state to sign those ordinances, please. Public comments. We have some folks who've signed up with name and address. Just a word about public comment. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes. But otherwise, we appreciate the public comment to this point, appreciate your willingness to hang in there for a good long meeting. So, John Widener.
He left.
Mr. Widener? Is he here?
No, he left.
Anybody signed up, you can just come forward.
Yeah, you could just come forward.
Katherine Callahan. I'd just like to say, as we all sat here today and we watched the commissioners come in with pictures of the Star Bank and whatever else they wanted to put up there, I'm amazed that in 3 years, nobody has taken the time to go out to Alexandria and take pictures and present that to the council tonight. I'm amazed that you sat here and listened to all that, but nobody questioned the commissioners to say, can you present to us? Where's Jessica? Where's the pictures for what's going on out there? Have you seen? Because there's people in this audience who've got pictures of what's going on out there, how that water is pumping through there. I'd just like to know, how many of you are affected by the Scotts and Phillips edition?
I'm in the township.
But you're not affected
I'm
by
not
it.
affected by it.
So the only person who was willing to make a motion was Bethany. And none of you could stand behind her. But yet three of you are at large. Not one person could second her to hear these people speak tonight. These people voted you in, and you silence them and tell them you don't want their voice. What is wrong with how this is going? These people are sick. Get some pictures up there that's actually hurting the people and what we're going to do to fix them. Because I'm telling you right now, you are passing money. They did budgets last year. Why didn't they ask for those budgets last year? Why are you giving them that? No, they need to learn if they can't ask for that money in that budget when it's budget time, they don't get it. But you have these elected officials who come in here when we're doing budget and they say to you, well, as long as I can come back here and get new money and you approve that, it'll be okay. And you do it. That's not a budget. I have it on tape. When are you going to start passing a budget that's going to serve the people? When are you going to start giving new money that's actually helping the people? That Star Bank is not going to help these people. That parking garage is not going to help these people. These people are suffering. I want to know how many of you were out there this weekend and looked at these people's properties. You have no problem making it to the polls. You got no problem putting signs up. Well, why aren't you out there with them? Do you know that one of the commissioners told these people to go get sandbags and put it out there? This is the commissioner's fault. This is Joe Davis's fault. Where's the help part? Why aren't they out there putting those sandbags for those people? IDEM is finding them, not these people.
Sandbags for sewer or water?
Well, that's coming back up for that raw sewage. They should have done something, right? But that's their answer to these people. They need to take care of it. No, IDEM says you need to take care of it. Who speaks for these people? You passed something tonight without listening to these people. Every one of you needs to get on the phone and tell 10 of your friends who not to vote for, so they can tell 10 more friends.
Sir?
You guys are again, I have a couple things. With the Star Financial building, we recently acquired that building not too long ago. Was there any form of, inspections done on everything that's wrong with that building? Because that water damage doesn't just happen, within a 2-year period or a 3-year period.
Right.
Exactly. So why are we just now seeing all the damage, and why wasn't it part of, the purchasing of that building? These are things that need to be looked at and addressed for future, items. And as far as, the jail goes, I know that the highway department had to put up a section of fencing because it wasn't budgeted for that. So that now you guys have used man hours from the highway department, which there's a lot of potholes out there, needed filling when they were putting that fence up. There's a lot of things that got taken away from the highway while they used guys putting a section of fence that isn't really needed at this time when they could have still used temporary fencing. Money there's a lot of money that is wasted that could be a lot more, allocated to better things. Like, and going with the sewage problem in, Scott's Addition and Phillips Addition. I've been in a hole with the field tile, and we're fixing the field tile. And yes, when I was in the hole, someone flushed their toilet and a turd floated by me. So I know firsthand the sewage problem is a major issue. But I also know firsthand that the health department can have people fix that themselves instead of having a whole system put in to bypass any problems in the future. Those additions are old. They weren't regulated like they should have been when they were first built. I understand that. Yes, it was probably common practice for people to tie in the field tiles with their septic. There's a lot of homes in Madison County, all over the county, that have that are older than 75, 50 years. But if you guys use dye in people's homes, then you can see who has the issues that are connected, and it's going to be way cheaper than just having people pay for a whole new system in that area. That's pretty much all I got.
My name's Rebecca Allen. I'm from Alexandria. My children are the 4th generation to live in our family home. At one time, we owned 6 houses. Our family owned 6 houses in Alexandria and Scott's Addition. My family's known throughout the community, and I am just floored that this commission, or this council, I should say, no one has come to us. No one has said, I didn't know anything about this meeting until today. I didn't know about the meeting last week or whenever you guys had it until it was already done. But I don't understand how someone can say you've been working on this for months and months and you vote on it and we don't know about it. It's incredibly disrespectful. And I voted for some of you guys.
Yep.
But I'm the 4th generation to live in this home, and now you guys can't even look me in the face when you make a decision, and you can't look. This entire room was filled with people that were voting against it. We haven't heard any other options, just my way or the highway. I mean, this is part of the swamp if you guys are doing it this way. This is what we don't like. I've never been in politics, but tonight, you guys have pulled me in.
Yep.
We have a long generation of being involved in our community. I'm not even going to say names because everybody knows family names. But it's incredibly insulting how it went down tonight.
My name is Kelly Lykoff. We are 184 East 1100 North. If you look at your paperwork for IDM and everything, that's our home. Myself and my husband. He's a disabled vet. I'm the one who had the heart attack from all the stress. 171 houses between Scott's neighborhood and Phillips comes into our backyard for 3 years. The health department got an award. I about fell down when I heard that. Joe Davis has done nothing for us. As a matter of fact, last week when it broke into 3 more pieces, we can't have a garden. I can't let my great peony out back. We can't do anything with our yard. We bought our house and then we bought the 3 extra lots behind us from the county without anyone telling us what was underneath. No one told us. We have our own well, we have our own septic. We rehabilitated that house. We can't even use our own well water. We've been bringing it in ourselves for 3 years. None of this has been easy, but no one will help us. I text every council person in Alexandria, and the only response I got back was from Kathy's right, from Olivia Pratt, saying where free sandbags were. I can't pick up that kind of weight anymore. My husband sure can't, and no one cares. Because the sewage isn't in your yards, is it? So no one cares. It's terrible. I'm so sad we moved to this county. It's awful. And I want you to know that. When you go home and flush your toilets at night, it comes to our house. Maybe not yours in particular, but 171 houses will do. It's about 50 gallons a minute. And the turds, they do shoot up. Please help us. No one else is. We're ready to go to the news. We are. How much more are we supposed to take?
Gonna have to sue the county.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom Wyckoff. I just want to show you people, if you don't mind, I'd just like to show you what our backyard looks like. And then I got one more picture I'd like to show you if you don't mind. So this all started from the rain stuff. What is that? That's all sewage water running in my backyard.
And they voted without listening to the public. You can see that on
And
my
when
Facebook
it flooded,
page.
when it flooded,
That video. It's on my
it got
Facebook
4 inches of rain. Our whole backyard is covered in flood water, which is totally, yeah, raw sewage.
And IDEM got in contact with everyone because we called them.
Now this is the first drain going up Scott Street, and if you look real close, you can see all the toilet paper that's stuck in the drain that's running down the main street.
Maybe we should just go put it all in their front yard.
I'm trying to be nice up here today, sorry.
Well, listen, they voted on this.
And I called Joe Davis and let him know when the storm started that it broke open again. He drove by today, didn't get out of his 2,500 HT truck, didn't get out. But Andy.
That the taxpayers pay for.
Andy Schmidt from IDEM did come out. He did. And he sent a report today. He sent me a copy of everything. Advising them that they have to repair and redo it again. This will be the third time, I'm sorry, that's been going to be repaired.
So as what we're getting out of this is that I know you guys want to approve this first budget thing or whatever, but what I'm asking for is, first thing is between now and then, that somebody comes out and fixes my backyard, at least get it to the creek. I don't care if it goes in the creek, but I don't want it in my backyard. Like my wife said, we can't use our backyard for anything. We want to plant a garden. We bring in our own water because we're afraid to use our well. It's not very far from our well now, especially when it floods. And some of these, when you guys get in more deeper into this regulatory committee thing or whatever for the sewage, we need to see plans. We need to, there's got to be more than just one contractor coming out giving prices and stuff. This is how much it's going to cost. But it sounds just like the clock project from what I understand. You guys just approved it, and why didn't you get 3 bids? I have 4 college degrees. I've worked in management many, many times, and I've been a project manager. Everything we do, we go get 3 bids. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be $10,000, it could be $5,000. But I'm hoping you guys make the right decision and give us plans and let us have meetings about all this so we can decide what we think is the best, even though we might not get our way, but we need to have our voice heard and things taken care of. And I really appreciate it. Somebody come out and fix my backyard, that'd be great. And, what was her name? Jessica Baskin or whatever? The one, whoever told us to go get sandbags.
Olivia Pratt.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner.
I'm sorry. Olivia told us to go get sandbags from the State Department. Well, my wife had a heart attack and I'm a disabled vet. And I can't carry 70, 80 pound sandbags and stuff. And we would probably only have to have about 1,000 of them. So I don't know if anybody wants to come out and do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I guess.
Cheryl McKinney, 46012. I think what frustrates me the most is that this has been a problem. It didn't happen overnight, and all of a sudden, last month, Jessica comes to this meeting like it's a fire that's got to be put out. So glad you guys tabled it last month. Hats off to you, Bethany, for what you do to fight for these people. We need more Bethanys up here.
Thanks, Bethany.
I don't remember who, but somebody asked Rick about grants, and he talked about the Madison County grant of $5,801. There are other grants available. If it's truly a historical society, the county should not be paying for that. I shouldn't be paying for that because I've never even knew that existed. It's not open to the public.
Right.
So until it's open to the public, I don't know why I'm paying it. With regards to the Star Bank, I'd like to see Rick come back here next month and tell us how much he's getting in lease payments and where that money's going. Because that money should be paying for those repairs. Rick also mentioned that he could get people started. He had the money to start getting the paint fixed. Everybody knows you don't fix the walls until you fix the roof. I won't say what I think of that comment. I might get kicked out of here. And with regards to the clock tower, that was a backdoor deal. Never should have happened. Bethany again called them out on it. She got shut down again. If they had the money and they didn't think they had to come to you guys who are the fiscal body, that's wrong. That money can't be used for whatever Rick thinks it needs to be used. I don't know about anybody sitting up here, anybody sitting out here. Who looks up at that clock tower? They were getting it maintenanced every year for $300 and some. That's all it needs is general maintenance. Nobody is looking up there. Nobody cares if it shines, trust me. Find me 100 people that really care. Find me 100. Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I would take a motion to adjourn.
We've had a good group.
Councilor Steele, second. Councilor Likens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Don't forget to sign your documents.
So there you see it, people. If you do not understand who you should not be voting for, I do not know what more to tell you. 6 members tonight should not be in their seats anymore. I'm just saying, do as you wish. We're not all going to be happy, but I will tell you, 4 of these people are up for a re-election. Out of those 4 people, only 1 should be re-elected, and that's Bethany Keller. All the others need to go. That's my commentary. And we will be live tomorrow night where I will podcast live and give you my opinion of what happened tonight. I'm a podcast on Kristopher show. I am absolutely disgusted tonight.
Hey, Catherine. Catherine. Okay, I don't know if she can hear me, but you guys can. And I just want to remind everybody that we will be doing a live show tomorrow night to break down what you witnessed in this meeting and in the Alexandria meeting. That will be tomorrow at 9. However, if you are interested in hearing about how the Indiana state government is screwing you in property taxes, if you're interested in hearing about what's going on at the property tax fight, Senate Bill 1 at the State House level, tune in to tonight's show at 9 p.m. Just here in about 25 minutes, we're going to be talking about State Representative J.D. Prescott and how he absolutely is just a worthless, slimy establishment hack and what they're doing and how he's been wrong and what's going on there. That will be at 9 p.m. tonight. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m., we will have Catherine on and we will talk about the breakdown from tonight's meeting and the Alexandria meeting. So you guys take care. God bless. And we will see you at 9 o'clock in just a few short minutes. A good night.
There's one of his texts and say, hey, I'm the new guy, and I'm going to try to get this started. You're in.